Okay. Okay, thanks everyone for having me. Yeah, today I'm gonna talk about a topic that's going way more mainstream, I think, than it used to be in the past, but actually onboarding the whole world to crypto. We've been doing this since the last 4 years, and today actually trying to talk a bit more about the background, how we use safe, and how we try to give every person a safe. So pretty much, first of all, a quick intro for everybody who doesn't know what Worldcoin is. We are trying to create the largest identity and financial network, right? And not just in like where we're launching a traditional network of sorts or a Web2 service, but actually give ownership to everybody, which is only uniquely allowed by Web3 and blockchain technology. That's why we're all here for, and we want to actually give ownership of this network to everybody. Why now? I think on the infrastructure side for identity, it became way more obvious now than, I don't know, 3 years ago. We sounded like crazy people that talk about strong HEI taking over, and you need some proof of personhood attached to some sort of actions that you do on the internet. But I think now it's actually way more obvious that something like proof of personhood that is actually tied to a human is very important, but obviously it needs to happen in a private way. There's a bunch of other use cases, I think, which is also quite obvious in terms of governance, and also wealth redistribution of sorts needs some strong base layer of identity. And nevertheless, on the financial side, we also want to deliver on this original premise of crypto, right? This was not about giving everybody an NFT, but actually onboarding everybody this inclusive financial system that gives everybody access to new or like traditional primitives, but do work on a global scale. So the two projects, or like the two products that I largely talk about today in this quick talk is on the one side, World App. It plays a key role that it is just one wallet of hopefully in the future many wallets, but it does support a bunch of features today which we do think are important for the Worldcoin ecosystem to kickstart. So you can claim obviously the Worldcoin airdrop in there, but it also supports a bunch of financial primitives which are important. So you can have digital cash, USDC, peer-to-peer transfers. It's not at all Worldcoin related, those features, but it also has functionality for World ID. So you can actually create those World ID proofs and attest humanness on any other platform. The other part is then actually World ID, the permissionless protocol. The important piece around this is privacy is the most important design aspect for us. So every interaction that you do is actually a zero knowledge proof. All of the Worldcoin users produce a lot of proofs. I think it's like millions of proofs per week that we produce, and actually a huge scalability topic itself. But today I want to focus more on the wallet side for safe specifically. So why this chart is relevant is that so far around 11 million people have downloaded World App, and around 5 million, so half of them, verified at an orb. What they both have in common is they all are safe users to some extent. This is just showing that this is actually happening worldwide. And all of those red dots are pretty much a user that downloaded the World App at some location. And what they all have in common, they have a safe. Not all of the 11 million, roughly half, have a safe deployed. The others have an address which points to a safe that is not deployed yet, but you can do this with safe through the Create2 deployment. So you can give somebody a safe without actually paying for the gas cost yet, but only, for example, once the user receives funds, the wallet is deployed. So you can actually do this on scale. Brief history of what got us to safe and why we've been doing that. So in 2021, we already started out with this mission of we want to launch this huge financial network. Certainly payments will be important, and L2s were not really ready by then. So we thought, let's build our own one, which is specifically targeted for payments. We quickly found out this is not a good idea because people want to do more than payments eventually. And it still ended up being probably the most efficient, optimistic rollup with a custom compression of transactions, which made it like 12 bytes of call data for a simple payment, which is like 10x lower than what you do in a normal L2 right now. But it already hinted towards this fact that we always want to be on the cutting edge of what you can do in terms of performance and what you can get out of current blockchains, because we did not want to sacrifice on decentralization to be able to hit those scaling goals. And 2022, we then launched a beta on Polygon, migrated away from this custom L2, mostly because we saw that, as I mentioned, people want to do more than simple payments. We quickly found out that EOAs are not made for the average person, and so externally owned accounts, which is like what you usually use in MetaMask, right? Not only that it's like somewhat unpleasurable for a user that you have to fund this with ETH to pay for fees, but also just from a standpoint of a wallet provider, right? You want to give them a smooth experience, but suddenly you have to deal with exposing users to bumping the fee on those transactions, right? It's a very uncommon experience that people usually don't have to worry about in Web 2. So we decided to launch smart contract wallets based on Safe, and the beauty actually of decentralized or decentralization is we didn't have to ask Safe for permission, right? We just did this, launched it, and I think after like the numbers skyrocketed of Safe deployments, the Safe team got somewhat interested. Hey, who's deploying all of the Safes? And it turned out that we were those people, and since then I think we've deployed around 5 million Safes. And yeah, I mean, beauty of it just works. Like you use the smart contract on chain, don't need to ask for permission and whatever partnership, right? Yeah, we then made the move to OP mainnet in 2023, and now we announced recently that we're going to launch Worldcoin as like the next scaling milestone of actually fully fulfilling the potential of scale. Because as you see on the right side, we actually hit those limits of OP mainnet already, and roughly 50 or 60% of all transactions that happen on OP mainnet today are from Worldcoin users. And obviously this is somewhere capped, right? So far we've browsed around, or like users created 100 million transactions over the last 2 years, and roughly 400,000 transactions per day, which is, even a year ago it sounded like crazy, whatever, when we launched at mainnet, things were going down at like much smaller scale already, so we're now at this consistent volume of transactions, and most of those 100 million transactions are safe transactions. And the cool thing about all of this is that WorldLab is able to sponsor them for now for free, because there's Sippl protection, right? Each user can only create one safe, and this actually allows you to sponsor transactions. And I think also in the future with 437, this is a whole new design space of allowing people a nice onboarding without having them to get ETH before they send transactions. Yeah, what we've learned, I think, in the past is L2s are still early. When we moved to OP mainnet, everything broke, kind of. It's largely made to have minimal differences between L1 and L2, but then there's a few differences with gas, and people hard-coded some gas limits in there. And yeah, we kind of struggled through a bunch of issues that just happen at scale. We had to build a lot of infrastructure ourselves. Actually, why the right picture is there, that's, if you remember or if you contributed, that's from the 4844 ceremony, for which we helped creating the part of the infrastructure needed to pull this off. This largest ceremony that happened for Ethereum ever, or like any project, I think, trusted setup. And yeah, it took still longer than we expected. We thought we could help accelerate it. It took a bit longer. It definitely brought everything to the limit again in terms of how much Optimism can handle in terms of capacity. So we shipped some custom transactions of compression, custom compression of transactions, which I think have not been done before on, at least in a production use case. I think Dymo now also does this since like beginning of the year, but it's like, I think we've been one of the first to do this in production. Now it's pretty much not needed anymore. 4844 solved the call letter issue. But what is now starting to become the bottleneck is actually L2 execution gas. And that's where Worldchain comes in, and why we want to join pretty much Coinbase and Optimism team to scale gas per second, join the gigagas journey. And yeah, so kind of goal is 10 power 9 chain, billion users, secure by Ethereum, don't sacrifice decentralization and security. But on the other hand, as I mentioned, there will be some very unique features that we can allow with WorldID. So humans will get priority block space, which is allowed by WorldID. It's obviously all open source. We use OP-Stack. We'll contribute back to OP-Stack with all of the scaling efforts that I mentioned. And it already launches from the beginning on with 10 million plus users. So I think it's also a very unique environment or ecosystem for builders to deploy the contracts on. And yeah, what's next in terms of the roadmap, Worldchain, Worldcoin protocol? Obviously, we need to migrate. So yes, we've deployed like 4 or 5 million saves. We have to do it yet again. Migrate to Worldchain. What is being announced today? I'm not sure if I'm front running it or it's in time for it. But Safe and Worldcoin together collaborate on passkey support in Safe. So people will have a very smooth onboarding experience. You don't have to store a private key separately, create a private key and store it in iCloud. But you can just use passkeys, which are in most devices secured by your secure element, so much more secure and just seamless to create. And we also think about native, or like plan to have native support for this specific SecP curve, which allows you to verify those passkeys cheaper and allows for other cool things in the future, like attestations to be verified on chain. And yeah, obviously, as I mentioned before, all of those initiatives around giving people some kind of priority and like a allowance to be able to do transactions for free will be enabled by 437, and we'll partner there with different providers, and will, I think, also offer some very unique and first-time use cases of 437. And last but not least, I think another collaboration that is also fair to name here already is we work on more forms of robust recovery for users, and which is, I think, ultimately one of the biggest limitations for adoptions right now. You should be not able to just store it securely, but also be able to reclaim access to it in a rather seamless way, right? I think there's like 2 distinct use cases where there's a safe with like a few million of DAO funds in there, and a user that has like $50 of funds in there in a kind of checking account, right? And we work together with the safe team as well there to innovate. Other challenges which I think are, I just want to put out there to maybe inspire other people to work on. I think in general 437 L2s definitely need to improve on censorship resistance and decentralization. We take a huge step forward in UX for the user and think scaling, but we also cannot take a step back on censorship resistance. So I think this is just generally something people are aware, but needs to be done. Another thing which we don't work on right now, but generally is like I think important for large-scale adoption is privacy of transactions, right? I don't think it will be very common to have people do all of their payments in public, and it needs to be normalized to have just normal transactions go through a private layer. And also something I've been talking here with a bunch of people already, and maybe somebody finds it interesting from a cryptography point of view. It's more like a research topic right now, but what Safe allows you to do is have this modularity and very composable rules on a smart contract level, which allow you to recover a wallet, but it's not very suitable for recovering secrets, which are somewhat important for everything that is CK related, which needs privacy. For example, you can think of Aztec or WorldID itself needs some form of entropy, which is provided by the user to actually make it private that only the user knows the secret to, right? And nobody else can break this privacy. It's fully independent of any third parties. So you kind of need a recover solution for all those secrets, which optimally would be generic enough, again, as Safe itself on chain, that you can just add a passkey, add multiple signers, add different modules. And I think this is an interesting area in future research. And ultimately, another topic I'm personally also excited about is private contact discovery, especially for peer-to-peer networks, and also I think blockchains itself. Discovery of people who are on the network is a fundamentally important problem, and social networks so far solve this with your address book, and you should obviously not upload your address book publicly and share it, but this can be also solved with cryptography once again, and I'm very curious to see solutions to that that are actually interchangeable and don't involve central parties. And very briefly, all of those challenges, I think, go in line with our grants program. The wave 1 is open since a few weeks. We're very happy to give out grants in all of those areas. Specifically, we're targeting for areas around scaling OP stack, so anything around the GigaGas roadmap, as I mentioned, and CK identity and actually enriching identity with more sort of credentials. And that's it already from my side, so thanks for your attention.